Let's get some more people. So today Stan's gonna do a little bit of underwriting on this multifamily, but before we do that, we're gonna take a look at this one property that he has available. Go ahead and let's bring that up.
All right.
Yeah, what's the goal here? You wanna tackle this down, or you wanna wholesale it? What's your goal here with it?
Well, I would say let's wholesale it, or if you guys want to keep it.
Like you wanna wholesale it though? Or you would buy and hold?
No, I'd rather wholesale. I want to, get some quick cash.
Got you.
Hold on, let's see. I'm not able to share screen, so are you the admin?
Josh, let me get Josh to.
Oh, where is he?
He'll be coming in. All right, then I'll just read yours. Let's see. Can you kind of read what's the terms on it?
Yeah, it is 275 purchase price is what they're asking. 5% interest rate, 30-year amortized, 5-year balloon. Monthly payments 1,500 and 30% down. Or not 30% down, sorry, 30 grand down.
30 grand down. So like 12%, like you said.
It's like 11%. That's 11% down. But then in total, after closing costs, I'd say it's about 12.41%. So it'd be like 34,000.
My entry fees are what?
Your entry fee would be about 34,125.
But that includes the wholesale fee, or who am I paying in here if I'm going to buy it myself?
Okay, so I didn't include a wholesale fee in there. So I don't know, let's say 5,000, right? Let's put a 5,000 fee on top.
Okay, so 5,000. So 39,000 would be my entry fee on 275, and then the ARV on that is what?
They have given. Let's see, 420 is the ARV. Our property has one more bedroom, a bigger lot, and square footage comp.
So the one for 420 has it's a larger comp with one extra bedroom.
No, ours is. Hold on, let's see. This one. Got too many screens open. There we go. Ours is a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. Square footage is 2,052. Year built is 2003. And ours has one more bedroom compared to the comp, and it has a bigger lot and more square footage.
Okay, so overall, our subject property is a little bit better. Okay,
Is a little bit better, correct?
When did that one for 420 sell?
It sold in January 31st. Here, I'll put it in the chat room, the link.
Let me see. Okay.
Is Josh coming back on to let us in, or what? Or to disable the screen share? Because I can't just
hear you. Call Josh Keating.
Calling Josh Keating.
While he calls Josh, any of the newbies that's in here? Kyle, where are you from, brother?
Based in Brea, California, North Orange County.
North Orange County?
Yeah.
Nice. Are you in sub 2 as well?
By Disneyland. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Anaheim. Nice. You hear all the fireworks every day?
Every night. I see them from my backyard too, actually.
Oh shit.
I try. Yeah. That's how I know what time it is.
Yeah, Disneyland time. Are you focused on multifamily, or are you just getting into it?
No, I'm not focused on multifamily. I feel like I probably should be, but haven't explored that. I'm trying to get my business and my team dialed in on the single family side, and then I'll probably branch out into multifamily myself.
Gotcha. Nice. Cool. Do you have any specific things that you want to learn today that you're curious about?
Just here working, figured I'd tune in. Yeah, I know I can learn something from you guys, so
Sweet.
just gonna absorb what I can.
Gotcha.
Sweet.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
about,
thanks for having me.
What about Justin?
All right, you should be able to screen share now. Sorry, guys.
Thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
How we doing?
What up, Justin? Where are you from?
I'm in Kingman, Arizona.
Gotcha. Is there any way you could turn on your camera so we know who you are and what you look like? I'm not talking to
Yeah, give me just a minute.
a blank screen.
So the rent rate is what, 2,200 out there. If I wrap it, it's probably 2,400. And then that interest rate stand at 5% is there a mortgage or is it seller finance?
This is seller finance.
Oh, really? So we can still negotiate the interest rate or no? Or is
Yes,
it set?
sir. Yeah. we
Is
can
this
negotiate
locked
the
up
interest
already?
rate. Yeah, a close of escrow is like in a couple of days.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, it's like on the 12th, I believe.
Oh, it's a whole week.
Yeah, it's on the 12th, but we can negotiate the terms still. The guy, he's from sub 2 as well, Daryl Banks.
Oh, okay. Does Daryl Banks have this locked up directly though?
I think so.
Okay.
I spoke with Blake, his dispo guy. He said that we can
Okay.
still negotiate the terms. Because obviously if we can negotiate the 5% down to 0, and just add it on the back.
Yeah, you know what? I'm interested. I like the deal. Look, I like the deal. It's just that I don't want to pay 5%.
Right.
I'd rather never pay. If I had to, I would pay like 3%. But if
This is it right here.
If in a scenario where I can just pay him 300,000, that's the house.
This is the house. This is Blake's number right here if we want to call him. Unless you want to call Daryl directly. I don't have his number though.
I might have Daryl's number. How much money is this gonna cost? I like wraps, so like with the wrap, the cool thing is you don't have to get it like 2022 ready, but I would paint it. Maybe
I mean, this is what you would look like if it's a wrap, right? So if let's say we bought it for, what's the price you want to wrap it for? So let's say we get it at what, 300K?
Let's go like like 290 or something, 295,
Okay.
and then we wipe out the interest rate. Just for now.
Okay,
That's
so
gonna be my goal.
Let's do conservative and let's just go 295, 0% interest rate, 5-year balloon, right? 30K down, or do you want to keep the 30K?
Actually, I forget. It's only 5 years. How is a wrap might not work on that price because the homeowner is gonna have 5 years to balloon it.
Right. So
I mean, it's not bad. It could still cash flow as a seller finance. So let's just run it as a seller finance. I know the rental rate is like 2 to 2,200. So
if we wrap it, let's say we wrap it at what, 325,
no, I wouldn't wrap it anymore. The
Okay.
term is not long enough for like
a regular
a
buyer.
homeowner, right? Like, and I don't want a homeowner to commit to it and then me have to kick him out either. I'm not trying to be like unethical. Like if he does,
Okay.
if in 5 years, either he has to come up with the refinance option or he might not do it. And plus, where's this state? What market is this one in?
This is in North Carolina.
I'm not sure if in North Carolina, it has to be 7+ years for you to wrap a deal.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think in California it's 7. I'm not sure. Kyle, since you're out here, have you ever done a wrap?
Yeah, trying to get one locked up though that I'll exit on a wrap. right now.
Have you-
Huntington
have
Beach,
you,
Huntington Beach.
Oh, that's nice. Have you heard anything about like if you wanted to do a wrap in California that it had to be a certain amount of years or length on the term on the
I haven't heard anything yet.
okay. know.
Gary Shevitz would be a good person to ask.
Who?
Gary Shevitz.
Gary, yeah, he's in the SoCal Sub 2 group. He's a licensed agent. He's a transaction coordinator, and he's been deep diving their whole rap situation lately. So
He's the one
Oh,
that
okay.
built this. He's the one that built the
Yeah,
foundation
yeah.
calculator, but we
Oh,
just
okay.
beefed it up.
Is he an older guy with glasses?
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, okay. He's the guy who wrapped Leo Bardo's own home. And Leo's the guy who told me about the 7 years in California for you to wrap the deal to an end buyer, a homeowner. That I believe in California, it's a minimum of 7 years that you have to been given the term to you before you can wrap it to somebody else. So and that came from that guy who you guys were talking, Gary or whatever.
Gotcha.
yeah. That's good to know because I got an agent trying to get me a deal right now. So I'll have to. If they ask for a balloon payment, I'll have to mention that.
Gotcha. Let's see. So, well, this deal is still cash flow as a sub 2 deal or a seller finance deal.
Yeah, this would definitely sub to. I mean, if you can do a current rent, I don't know what the current rents is, but let's say we can charge 2,200, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if this tax is accurate. It just said 125 or 127 bucks for the year for 2021. So I don't know how accurate this is. This is just based on what he's telling me. Monthly payments around 1,500. So I just evened it out. With the 10% management fee, 5% vacancy, and then 5% for maintenance. You're at 2,200 bucks. Your monthly NOI is 1,736. Right. The cash flowing that for the year. It's pretty good. Or I don't know. Hold on. There's something wrong.
No,
with this.
something wrong in there.
Something's wrong with it. Hold on.
It's the other way. It's the other way around. There you go. The net operating income should be closer to that. What is it? If you're taking 2,200, we have 1,500, then we have our safety net. I mean, we have our war chest, all that stuff. Or what? Closer to like, we're closer to the 400 or whatever number range.
Total operating costs. I don't know why this one's a little.
Shouldn't that be
off.
closer to the net operating income though? If we're only really going to be, because the spread is from 15 to 22, there's 700 bucks. You know, you take away.
Oh, the monthly net right here. Sorry.
There you go.
This is
Okay,
649.
that's nice. That's at 0%, right?
Yeah, this is at 5%.
Oh, it's at 5%.
It's still at 5%. If you're doing it at 2,200 bucks.
That's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad at 5%. We're gonna negotiate the 5%, but I think I like it. I think I might move forward with that. So let's put that on the back end of this, and then we'll get back to it right after we do this multifamily, so we can jump into multifamily.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it though.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, cool. So welcome to the multifamily underwriting session, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Carlos, for always doing this every Friday. I guess we're going to start doing this every Friday at 3 p.m. PST. And then I can help you guys teach you how to write under multifamily deals. If you guys don't know, multifamily is typically on the commercial side. It would be about, it's more than 4 units. So anything 5 units and above, that's what's considered commercial multifamily space. Based on the loans, that's what they start off at on the commercial side. Anything under 4 units and below, it's still considered a residential loan. Okay. So just let you guys know, I am a licensed commercial agent out here in Las Vegas. Just want to disclose that. And everything that's here is all educational purposes. I'm still learning every single day. So if I say something incorrect and you guys know the answer, feel free to correct me. But let's get started. Before we get anything else out of the way, does anybody have anything in particular that they want to cover, that you guys want to address, let me know. Feel free to interrupt me since it's a small group. Or you could put it in the chat room, and then when I look over, I can get to it. But if you guys have any,
Is this
Go ahead.
property in Las Vegas?
no, this one is actually in Miami.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
boy.
you already have a buyer dialed in for this one? Or are
I-
you just running the numbers to run the numbers?
No, I actually have a potential buyer for it. We haven't negotiated what's the final terms on it. But yeah,
Alrighty.
this is actually a live deal that we're looking to negotiate to the numbers that we need fit for this deal to work out. So if you guys have been here before, I don't know if you guys noticed the calculator has changed a bit. I'm always constantly updating this calculator just to give a little bit more information. The more data that we have, the more accurate we can get, the better we can perform on a property, right? Just in the last 2 underwriting sessions I've had with 2 different groups, we've added a significant amount to this calculator. Thanks to Carlos for setting us up last week or this week with one of his syndication guys. I got this idea from him. And then as well as today, one of the other multifamily students in sub 2 actually taught me a few other things on how they underwrite versus how I do it. So I'm going to share those nuggets with you guys today. All right, so ideally, the main things that I like to put in is obviously the property's information, right? The property name, the amount of units, how many current physical units are occupied versus vacant, because that's always going to be important. The occupancy rate, as well as any vacant units. So everything that's in the blue, I manually plug in. Anything in the white has a formula right here. Okay. So just if you guys had that question that you guys wanted to ask. This is built in 1958. This is a Class C property. There's 4 different classes in multifamily that you'll hear. Class A, Class B, Class C, and the worst one is Class D, which we don't ever touch. So that's typically more in the, the war zone type of properties that are just in terrible condition. I didn't put the street on here just so, I don't disclose it since we are recording and this is going to go public. This deal is in Miami. And any other information I don't have in here is because I don't have it. This is in Dade County. I don't know if it has a chiller. This is a 3-story property, has 30 parking spaces, has a 1.25 parking ratio from parking spots to units. Sometimes they provide that. Roof type, I don't know what it is. That's why I didn't add it. And this is a value add investment. And then obviously the price per square feet and the living square footage of this property, right? So these are pretty important because every time you want to look at a property, you want to see what the property type is so you can compare orange to oranges, apples to apples, right? And then obviously on the right side right here, we have the purchase price with the asking, what we want to offer, any ARV if we have it, any repairs that we're going to be doing, which is also considered, you're going to hear the terms capital expenditure or CapEx, any first deposit, earnest money deposit, usually it's about 1%. So let's just change that right there. And then right here is price per unit based on the asking price and then also based on the offer price. And then obviously it's divided by how many units there is. And then right here is just basically what the value of difference is from the asking to offer price. And then we have the crime grade. Crime grade is very important when it comes to multifamily deals, right? That will significantly change a lot of the investors' opinions on a property, just because you want to obviously get a grade A, but obviously with Class C properties, they're not always in the best. And if you guys want here, I'm going to paste this in the chat room. You guys can use this as a resource. This is where we find this website right here, crimegrade.org. So if you guys want to know whether an area is, a good area to live in and whatnot, this is the website that we use. It'll tell you the grading down here. You just plug in the zip code, right? It'll tell you like pretty much the grading system based on violent crime grade, property crime grade, and other crimes. And we typically want to see like a C or above. When it's a D or less, then obviously you know that's a pretty bad neighborhood, right? So right here, A+, dark green areas are the safest. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. And if you guys want to know more details, then you guys can read on. But that's one of the resources I want to share with you guys that I just found out about. And then obviously all these are left blank because I don't have a lot of the information for that. So let's get into it. Just so you guys know, I'm going to share with you guys what the property looks like so you have an idea of what we're underwriting. Let me find my email. So this property came from a sub-2 student, and this actually it seems like a pretty good deal so far based on what I've underwrote it. I've already done the underwriting for it, so I'm just going to kind of breeze through this. And then I'm going to share with you guys the photos that I was sent because it wasn't on what's called the OM. They didn't provide an offering memorandum. You're going to hear that as well. Offering memorandum, right? There's 4 things that you guys need to keep in mind when talking to brokers or other wholesalers. Is the 4 things that you want to ask for is the OM, right? The offering memorandum. It's just basically a flyer of all the details of the property that the broker puts on a spreadsheet or puts on a flyer, right? All the details as possible, all the metrics, all the income. If they have CoStar, and they provide all the more detailed information about it. That's what an offering memorandum is. Another one you want to get is the rent rolls, right? This is going to tell you all the tenants' leases, all the amounts, all the if they're behind on payments. Also, any of like what type of rents that they are, if they are a Section 8, if they're not, what type of assistance that they're getting. So that's what basically rent rolls are. You know what the tenants' names, address, what units that they live in. Okay. The other one is T12. T12 you're going to hear is called a trailing 12. Trailing 12 is basically your income statements, the income and expenses for the last 12 months. The more accurate you want to get is the current month for each property, right? So if this is August, they're not going to have a completed August T12. So they're going to go off of July, right? And then you want to get from July of 2022 to last year, July 2021. So that's how you get the most accurate information. Sometimes you won't get it. Sometimes you will. It just depends on how accurate that their property management company is, if they even have it. If it's a little mom and pop's investment, then they're likely not going to have good tracking on their T12s. And the last one you're going to have and you're going to ask for is profit and loss statements. This basically tells you all the income and expenses of the property. It gives you all the breakdown of basically, you know, what they're paying as far as capital expenditures, property management, taxes, vacancies, whatnot. You know, you guys get the gist of that. So those are most important 4 things that you're going to ask for from a broker or from the wholesaler. Any questions so far? No? Okay. I'm trying to find my email where it has.
I got one thing. So like with the crime grade, so like,
Mhm.
like your cap rate can kind of be related to that, right? So if you have like a higher cap rate, then maybe you could check, like, is there like a good idea to check like your crime like grade around there? Like,
Yeah, you always want to check the crime grade, just because it does play a role of the people, the tenants that are going to be in that area, right? The higher the crime rate, the less likely you're going to be able to bump up the rent, or, you know, less likely of people that's going to have interest in
living there.
living there. Yeah, exactly. And I'm not sure why. my mail. Hold on, let me exit this mail app real quick. There we go. Yeah, so it does, the cap rate does correlate with a few different factors, right? It's not a one type of thing. There's a lot of multiple factors when it comes to the cap rate and the value of the property, right? Something I shared with you guys last week was if the way to evaluate a cap rate based on the asset class grading is based on like a higher or lower risk factor, right? The higher the cap rate, the higher the risk, the lower the rate, the cap rate, the lower the risk. Usually when you find a cap rate of, let's say, 8% plus, right? Because you can go to 8% up to like sometimes even 13, 15, right? This means that you have a higher risk, right? Because most of the time they've already put all their values in the past years. They added value in past years, but they haven't kept up with it, right? And they've been paying down their debt. So that's when you get higher risk. So, the location is not that great. Most of the time, these properties have needs value add by adding extra amenities, or you can increase the rents because they're under market value. When you start seeing cap rates in like let's say the 4 to 6.5 is ideal. That's when the property is pretty much stabilized, right? There's different investors, different appetites. Most investors that go for the high risk are usually Class C type of properties, right? And these are the ones that you always want to, you're going to find a lot more of these guys where they like to invest in properties that are a little bit more high risk because they can take that property and create value in it by adding amenities, increasing their rent values, adding Wi-Fi, adding, like a pet control fee.
Laundry, something like that.
Laundry, coin laundry, those are like pretty popular. Adding storage spaces, anything that can increase the value of the property will lower the cap rate over time, right? So these are typically stabilized. That's what you're going to hear. Value add investors like to stabilize the property over time. And it's anywhere between like a 3 to 5 year turnaround. That's why a lot of these guys that will do creative finance on these multifamily homes, they'll do like a 5-year balloon, because usually at that time, if you get a good property on the initial buy, you're ready to cash out with your investors by the time year 5 comes around. Cool. Oh yeah, I was going to show you guys the photos.
Do you guys have any questions so far? Did anybody have any questions on cap rates? I know at first, when I first heard about capitalization rate, that I always assumed the higher the cap rate, the better, because it sounds like a better return. But if you guys don't have any questions, maybe Stan can answer this question that I already know the answer to it now, but some people might not have thought about it just yet because they could be new. With cap rates, is it better for them to have a higher cap rate or a lower cap rate, and why?
Is it better to have a lower or higher cap rate, and why? It depends. It's all about, going back to what I said earlier, it's all about risk appetite, and depending on what you see that you can add value to the property, right? It does sound appealing when it's like a 10, 12% cap rate, because as is, you're not doing anything to the property. You're not adding any more capital expenditures. You're not trying to raise the rents. So if you're just trying to buy the property as is, but you want to be a slumlord tenant, then yeah, that might be a good thing for you. And that's pretty common. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of slumlord landlords, and they don't take care of the property because they're cash flowing. So they just let the property just basically deteriorate. And that's where investors like us, ourselves, we like to come in and basically give it a nice facelift. That's the easiest way to give it, right? So, and then going back to, is it better if it's a lower cap rate? Most of the times, if you have like a lot of institutional buyers, hedge funds, institutional buyers will like to buy a property that's already stabilized, right? Because they need to park their money somewhere. So what do? They find properties that are already stabilized. They don't care to go in and fix anything up. They want to buy it already performing on a stabilized cap rate. Does that make sense? Like they'd rather just cash flow on a small, consistent basis, because to them, 50 million, 100 million, $500 million in an asset performing property, they're cool with that, right?
Yeah.
So these are photos of the property, right? This looks like it's already, renovated. Everything looks repainted. They've done a new roof on it apparently, but there's always still something that could be fixed, right? Not a lot of people like the whole red thing. So if you want to be neutral, you want to paint it white and black, something like that. You want to change the fencing, or you want to take this playground out and add like a dog park. You want to add coin laundry somewhere, you can do that. And with multifamily, the good thing about multifamily is that you can create value by increasing the value of the property, by increasing the net operating income, right? A small rental bump to $100 and X amount of units in it can increase your property value by a significant amount. I'll teach you guys that towards the end of class, but something like this, and there's not really any way to generate income from a little children's playpen. Why not add, a pet park in here somewhere, or you can add a storage unit somewhere. You can create more money by adding a coin laundry, which this one has. This has a 24 units, but they put one of the units as a coin laundry, right? They have 3 washers and 3 dryers in here. I don't know how much this generates. Actually, I do know how much this one generates in particular, but small little things like that. What if they added another area and added more laundry and washers that can increase the value by a significant amount. So this is what the aerial shots look like. So this is a pretty nice looking property, right? Look at all this space right here. This is all unused space that you could literally find out how much is it going to cost to build additional units. I mean, obviously that's going to cost more, but things like that, if you own this part of the property, this land lot, that's additional things that you could add to increase the value of this unit or this complex. You guys see this, right? Yeah, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure that I'm showing something that you guys are seeing. All right, so let's go back to, here we go. All right, so like I was saying, this has 24 units, but instead of one of the units, unit number 1, they have it as a laundry room. And how do I know that? Is because the rent rolls right here tells me that, right? Apartment 1, laundry, $430, right? They got 24 units. And this is how typically a rent roll would look like. This is a little bit, this is a very, very simple one, but usually the ones that are a lot more detailed and tracked, they'll tell you who's missing rents, who's behind on them, when's their month-to-month lease ending, right? Who's on month-to-month, who's having government assistance. So here it does say this is a non-Section 8. This one says HAP. I don't know what HAP is. If someone does, let me know. I don't know what CMB means. So there's different things about different tenants that they kind of associate, things with. This one is a Section 8 government assistant. This one is Section 8. But usually what happens is they usually tell you also, it gives you better detail, like how much square footage, is this the studio? Is this the 1 bedroom, 1 bath? Is this the 2 bedroom, 1 bath? I don't know. I kind of had to guess, right? I had to do a little bit of digging, and I found out that 3 of these in the highlighted blue were the 2 bedroom, 1 bath. So I don't know where the other 2 is. I just kind of guessed, right? So based on those numbers, and I'm doing this based on the asking price, they were asking originally 4.4 million for this property. Okay. The offer price, I'm just leaving it as the same because this is what we're underwriting it based on what the current property value is giving based on the rents. Okay. So according to them, as is right here, as is considered actuals. When you're gonna hear actuals, this is what they're actually paying in rent for each unit, right? This is the breakdown. This is a square footage per pretty much each. If you want to get more detailed, I think you can, there's like there's a source called CoStar.com. It's a little bit pricey, but that's where you can get more accurate information. There's also Crexi, and then there's LoopNet. Crexi and LoopNet are ways that you can find homes or find any type of commercial assets for free. You can subscribe to them if you want to get more in depth of data, but those are the two that I would recommend if you guys want to look for properties to pretty much see in any state and in any asset class. And then you can contact brokers that way to see if there's a deal or not. All right, so according to the actuals, right, this is what they're paying. This is generating a gross rent of $30,388, right? This is per month, okay? And then annually, this is generating $364, $656,000 for the year. If we take out the coin laundry, because we're just going based off units, so that means that we're going to divide this by 23 units instead, right? This is just the income generated from just renters. We're gonna not include the laundry for this specific underwriting. These numbers right here, pro forma, when you guys hear pro forma, it's based on future projection of what the property would rent out at after you repair the value of the property, after you increase and add value to the property. This is what you can estimate the rent is can be capped at. Now you can see that there's a kind of a big difference, right? For a studio, this one's paying $1,100, but then I put $1,600, and you're probably wondering, okay, why did you increase it by $500? So when I asked the student, the wholesaler, if he can run comps for me from another realtor, because you always want to ask, like, what's the most comparable rents for a studio in this area? It capped out at about $1,600. So this has potential to have a $500 increase, but you also have to keep in mind that there's some states that actually that won't allow you to do that, right? It's called rent control. You can only increase your rents by a certain percent each year. Do we know that with Miami? To be honest, I don't.
I looked it up here. It says Miami doesn't have any laws on rent control. It doesn't put a cap. It doesn't put a cap on security deposits, and landlords can initiate an eviction within 3 days of being late on rent. 3
That's
days.
all by in Florida. It's not like that in California.
Yeah.
They have
So-
10%. I
This
think
is
it's
Miami
California, it's
specifically.
10% is what their cap is. I think that if they're gonna raise the rent, I think it's like 10% of the already rental income. So if you're paying 2 Gs and they're gonna come up and they say, oh, I'm gonna want 2,500. I think legally they can only charge 10%. So you'd go up like 2,200.
Right.
Then California
So-
would take forever to get, to evict the tenant and everything.
Yeah. So you don't want to invest in California. So thanks for the information, Josh. If you can, just can you put that in the chat room? I want to see where you got that information. So you always want to make sure that whenever you guys are analyzing a property, you always want to make sure that you want to check if there is a rent control. Miami is obviously, now we know that they don't have that. So you can charge whatever you want, obviously within reason. But if you can max it out to the top, top of the market value, these are what we're estimating it at, right? 1,600, somebody will pay for a studio, even though the studio is 350 square feet. That's like a freaking tiny home. But just that, it's significant, right? And then for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, we can get around the same price, 1,600. I think I miscalculated that for some reason right here. It's 1,600 right there. All right, and then obviously
that studio can achieve the same as the 1-bed.
According to what the actually no, it's 1,650 is what he put for. Yeah, I need to update
For the
this.
studio?
Hold on.
Damn.
why do I have, hold on 1 second. I must have messed up.
1650.
There.
Imagine that. Imagine some shit like that. You just get a note the next month. You're like, hey, we're gonna charge you $500 more for the same for the same
So it's-
unit.
So it's actually 1,600, yeah. So
Cool.
studio and a 1 bedroom, 1 bath is pretty much the same.
Okay.
So let me see if these are the same as well. Okay, I'm just gonna copy this second, so I don't forget. Okay,
I mean, even
Cool.
Florida's up right now in the price, 1600.
yeah, it's crazy. So for a 2 bedroom, 1 bath is about $1,900 as well. So, you know, on a pro forma, after you fix it, you can increase the value by a lot, right? And now our totals for the gross income is $38,600. So what's the difference between what the actuals are versus what you can increase the rent is? If you pay attention right here where it's highlighted. This is something I learned today from the other group. This is how they analyze added value that they can do for the property, right? There's a difference. So if we take all the actual pro forma rentals, right, which is that $38,600, and we divide it by the amount of units that there are, which is technically 23, not 24, because one's a coin laundry, right? It comes out to an average of about $16.78, $26 for the rents. And then if we do that same exact method for the as-is value, the average rent that we're getting is about $1,302.52. Now, what's the difference in between those prices, right? Is if you take the 1678 and you minus the 1302, you're getting an average rental increase of about $375.74. Now, what does that mean, right? Well, with 23 units, and then we're taking about 95% in occupancy, which means that there's 5% vacancy, right? Because we want to be a little bit conservative. It's not always going to be fully rented out, even though this one is particularly all rented out. We're getting about 95% occupancy, and then there's 12 months in a year, right? The market cap rate for Miami in this area is about 5%. Now, what does that mean? So if you go to apartmentloanstore.com, and you can find this for any state, there's different cap rates for every city. You see how the description's right here? We are a value add acquisition. The cap rate is at about 5.5%, right? So every state has a different cap rate of what they would typically value a property at. If we go back to here, we're gonna use 5.5. Let's use 5.5 for this purpose. Now we've created $1.79 million in value from that 375 rental increase. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Just from increasing the rent by $375 from this particular spread, it gave the value of the property an additional $1.79 million. That kind of
Grant
mind
talks about that a lot. Talks about
Freaking-
that, like you can kind of control the price as long as there's always value to be added to it. And it's not about like the purchase price is gonna be like the way you can sell it. It was something like the way that the more that you can charge the rent, the higher you can sell the property as well. The higher, the more the value to it, the more value add, the more that you can charge up rents. The next time you can sell it even more expensive from when you purchased it.
Yep, correct. And this is why multifamily is very, very attractive to a lot of investors. Because if you can buy it at a really good deal and you are pretty creative with adding value to the property, small little increases like this can make a big difference, right? So even $100, right? So if, let's say I'm going to change this, right? Even if we just did $100 increase, right, in rents, I'm going to do 1402.52, right? $100. We just gave the property an added value of $476,000.
So let's say after you stabilize it, right? Let's say it was the $352 per unit. Let's say it took you a year or so to stabilize that, get that value added in there. You can turn around and sell it for that $1.7 million difference.
Correct.
Okay.
But it's pretty tough, right? I mean, if you're really wanting to get a little bit more technical, it's not going to happen within a year unless the property is completely vacant, right? Because it's hard to evict people or take people out while they're still there, and then obviously renovate it. So you have to do it slowly. There's a method to it, and this is why they always say like they want to conservatively write it as if they're turning it around in 5 years. But if you can do it and stabilize it within less and then dispo it out in a less amount of time, then yeah, you can absolutely do that.
Cool.
So this is a pretty neat way to analyze how much an extra operating income can increase the value of your property. You just take the difference from your as is and your pro forma, right? So this is the formula. I'm going to drop it in here so you guys can copy this. You take the number of units times it by the upside. The upside is obviously the average rent increase. Or let me type this. Times it by the upside. You times it by the occupancy. Times 12 months. And then you divide it by the market cap rate, which is what I showed you guys right here. I'm going to put it in. Oh, I'm going to put it in a chat room. You guys can just use that website. Times I divided by that market cap rate because every metro and state has a different cap rate that they use. And that will equal the upside added value that you have increased for that property. Okay. That's the easiest way to tell if this property is worth is basically is it worth investing in? Can you increase the rents? Can you increase any amenities? Can you add it? Right. So that's the way we do it. All right. So going back to this part, operating expenses. Now we're going to look at the operating expenses. The taxes for the year for this specific property, $67,536. All right, insurance is about $2,447.90. I think these are zeros because I think they bill back the tenants, because you can always bill back the utilities. If you want to increase also your income, you don't have to pay as the landlord these utilities. It just depends. Every state has a regulation. So you always want to make sure that you check to make sure that that state and that city allows you to bill back your tenants. Not always. Sometimes you have to pay for it, right? So this one has a water, $141 a month. They don't have any sewer. They don't have any garbage. They have a gardener, which is the lawn care. For monthly maintenance, they pay $80. And this one, typically management is about 8 to 10%. Typically, the reason why this is at 1.35% is because I was trying to match it up with what they provided on their T12, which was about $400. So that came down to about that 1.35%. Right. So you always want to make sure, because a lot of these properties, if they're self-managed or they have a family member that does it, then that's where you can see if the management rates are low or not. But like I said, if you're going to give it to a company or have a company manage it, property management company, they typically charge anywhere between 8 to 10%. And then the more business you give them, it's like anything else, then you can negotiate a lower management fee. So vacancies, 5%, that's pretty normal. And then maintenance is at 2.75. Maintenance is typically at about 5%. The higher the risk, the higher the maintenance. The lower the risk, when it's stabilized, the lower the maintenance. So it can range anywhere between 2 to 5% on the maintenance side. And just remember, these are going into what's called reserves, right? It's like your war chest. You always want to keep that in consideration because you don't want to, in a rainy day, things happen at multifamily homes, right? AC goes out, roof caves in, water breaks, stuff like that. So you always want to make sure that you have enough capital reserves to take care of those things. People leave all the time. People get evicted, so you lose those rents as income. So if we take a look at the down payment on this, typically most investment properties, when it comes to multifamily space, you're going to see about 20 to 25% of the down payment. And that's how it works on the loan side for almost any investment business. They always want to take a 80 to 20% loan to value. I underwrote this at a 6.5%, even though the rates are at, I think now below 5. But you always want to underwrite properties very conservatively because you want to, a lot of times these brokers or owners, landlords, they fluff their numbers, right? So you never want to believe everything that they put on the paper. You always want to do it yourself. I caught some mistakes yesterday when I was running these numbers, right? I had to do my own due diligence because some of these numbers were a little bit off, and I caught it, and I was like, okay, they don't have formulas. I have to, you don't have to learn spreadsheets, but it's a good thing to keep in mind, just like the basic stuff. Or you could pass somebody to me. You could have me underwrite it, obviously, if you want me to partner up with you. And that's what I do with Carlos. He has deals that he'll send me that he wants me to underwrite, and we go do it together.
Yeah, people had questions on, hey, how do I get the spreadsheet? How do I get this?
Yeah, so this spreadsheet I don't give out. If you want to do a deal with me, I can incentivize you that if we close on a deal, I'll be happy to gift it to you. But this you can buy. There's a investor. His name is Investor Ace. He built the foundation, but I built like all the extra bells and whistles on here just to help me understand the property a lot better. So it doesn't come fully like this. I mean, there's extra stuff that's on the other side of the spreadsheet that's included, but I don't give this one out specifically. But if you want to do a deal, like I said, we can partner up on something. If we close, then yeah, I'd be happy to get this to you. So the amount financed, this is based on the 20% difference, right? From that 80%. This total investment, there's $880,000 on the down payment, which was that 20% of the purchase price of 4.4 million. And then we're taking closing costs, 2.5%. And then if you take the renovation costs, you're probably wondering if this property is already renovated, why are you adding renovation costs to it? I just put the renovation costs based on a $25 per square feet. This is not accurate as far as what Miami charges. I just put this as our numbers for Vegas. We go by per square foot about $25 to renovate rooms, but it could be $15, it could be $10. I don't know. I just put $25 just to be safe. Even though this property is renovated, I'm underwriting it as if we can add more value to this property using almost $300 in renovation costs, right? You don't have to, but I did. So based on all these numbers, the total cash required for this property, if you add all the down payment, the closing costs, there's no closing credits to the buyer. And then also the renovation costs, all the cash required for this property is $1.284 million, $225 that you have to come out of your pocket, or you have a private money lender that will put this money up for you. And that's how you pretty much get into a multifamily deal. You don't have to have the capital to do it. You can have investors, private money lenders, students in the group. If you can find them a good deal, they'll pull their money together, and that's what's called a syndication. Syndications are a little bit more pricier because paperwork is what's really going to initiate a syndication gets a little costly, right? There's a lot of lawyers that gets involved. There's a lot of paperwork, but that's how investors like you, me, Carlos, and anyone in this group can get into a deal without our own money. But if we find the right investors that want to get in with us, then they can put up this $1.284 million. Cool. So let's look right here. So these numbers, if we pay attention to the top, this is what your current actuals are, the current numbers. Based on that $4.4 million price, loan to value 80%, down payment, like I mentioned, with the closing costs. The principal amount that we would have to pay out for the debt would be at 3.5 million at a 6.5% interest rate for 30 years. The monthly mortgage on this property would be $22,248. But guess what? You're not paying for it. Your renters are, right? So with that being said, this is why investors like to get into multifamily spaces, because you don't pay for it. The income, or you don't pay for the rents, your tenants do, and they pay down your principal. So after the gross rents of what's the actuals right here, and you take out your management fees, you're taking out your taxes, insurance, any paid utilities, your vacancy reserves, maintenance reserves, your total operating expenses comes out to $11,023.36. Now, if you take the monthly mortgage and you minus the expenses, you're left with a net operating income, which is NOI. That's what it stands for, net operating income, which is also known as your cash flow, at $18,934. This is what you're cash flowing every single month for this property based on the numbers of their actual rents. Okay, and then every year you're cash flowing at $227 and $215. $227,000, $215. Yeah, am I saying it wrong? All right,
Hey,
so the
I got
cap.
a question.
Yeah.
On the total operating expenses, is that monthly or yearly?
Total operating, this is monthly.
Okay, and then is the monthly mortgage 22,000?
Monthly mortgage is 22,000, right? Oh shit, I'm saying it backwards. I apologize. Yeah. So this is what you would be receiving net operating income, but with the it's backwards. My bad. Thanks for
Okay.
catching that.
I was like, oh shit, wait, what?
Yeah,
How's
sorry.
there not much money left?
It's
Yeah, okay.
under. Yeah, my bad. My brain's
Carlos is on top of his shit, eh?
Yeah, good catch, good catch. My brain's a little mush. All right,
I
so
was zoned in, then I just stopped. I was like, wait, what? There's still that much cash flow? And I was looking side to side real quick. I was like, something got me going.
Yeah, good catch. So my bad. So let's do that again. It's the opposite way around. Who's got all that music going on? All right, so it's the opposite way around. The operating expenses and the monthly mortgage, right? So the monthly mortgage is $22,248, but this property is underwater actually, because his net operating income is $18,934. So we're getting a negative monthly net of $3,314, right? So this is a negative return of an investment. He's bleeding $39,769 every single year. So that's not a good deal, right? At that $4.4 million. And this is what they're trying to sell it at. You see how the data will tell you the story based on what the current situation is for this property? You can tell just by looking at these numbers that this property is not a good deal at a $4.4 million purchase price. And when you buy a property, you always make your money on the buy. You never make it when you sell. You always initially make the money once you finalize your underwriting. You can tell where all your capital expenditures are, where your taxes are going, all the expense. And you can tell where this property is telling the story of this owner is bleeding. Now, based on what we can repair it at, if we put in that $295,000 in repairs to add value to this property, where is it going to be at? So if we look right here, the stabilized pro forma, this is a future projection of where the property is after you repair it, right? Remember here, we're going to create $375 worth of new income to the property by increasing the rents, if we can maximize those over the next few years, right? With that $4.4 million purchase price, your new monthly net would be $4,500.41. But you have to put in that 295,000 in repairs to get close to that gross rental rate. Now you're probably asking like, well, how long is that going to take? We don't know. That's why you have to estimate based on the numbers, right? This is a smaller unit compared to most. So, it's not going to be hard to turn around, and depends on the rent rolls when these lease agreements are going to be completed. So based on these numbers right here, if you look at the cash flow, actually every year is 39,000, that's negative. If you increase the rents by $375 for that year, you're going to cash flow $4,500 a month and $55,000 for the year. Now you might think like $4,500 a month, that's not a lot, right? Most investors are going to look at this and they're like, damn, we don't want to buy an asset that's not performing. And there's multiple different ways that you can underwrite a property. For me and my team, we like to underwrite the property based on a future projection of cash on cash, right? And that's what we mainly look at. This for us wouldn't be a deal based on the purchase price. And based on the cash on cash, this is only performing at a 4.24%. We typically like to find properties that we can build future projections on based on data that's going to be anywhere between 10 to 15%. Now you're probably like, damn, that's a lot. That's pretty high. Yeah, that is. But there's this word that people use when they underwrite. It's called massaging the numbers. There's a phrase called massaging the numbers. How do we get it so that it performs above a 10%, right? A 10% cash on cash. How does that happen? So
Lower the price.
exactly. You can lower the price. You can lower expenses, right? Because based on this property, their expense ratio is at 36.80%, right? So we're going to go into this next tab and I'm going to show you how we do it. So everything remains the same except the offer price. Okay, 4.4 is what they're asking, but let's offer, we don't want to offer 4.4. Let's offer 3.95 million. So the numbers stay the same, right? All this stays the same. There's nothing that changes except the offer price at 3.95 million. Okay, so what does that look like? And we also added some rubs right here. Rent utility bill back system is what rubs mean. So basically you're billing back the utilities to the tenants, right? Now that's basically credit. That's expenses that you don't have to come out of pocket, which boosts up your net operating income. Okay. So with that little change, right? We're still at 20% down. We're still at a 6.5% interest rate. We're still at a 30-year loan. Look what changed. Right now we're entering into at least a monthly, like a positive asset now. If we come in at 3.95, now we're not bleeding anymore, but we're still not making a lot. Is it worth to put down, $938,000 to generate $1,400 a month? You're probably like, hell no. That's generating almost like barely 2%. But look at what happens, right? With that purchase price of the 3.95, your cash on cash just went up to 12%.
Yeah.
Right? That's a big difference. Just from massaging the numbers. So this is how you kind of manipulate the purchase price to get to where you need to be to offer that to the seller or to the broker. Hey, sorry, seller or broker, we can't come in at that 4.4 million asking price. We need to be at 3.95. Can you guys make that work? It's literally that, right? This is the difference of the asking price from what they asked for. It's like about an 10% discount. So that goes to show, like, if you can negotiate and you have the skills to put together, and if you don't, obviously get with me and Carlos, we can negotiate for you. And these are primarily what we look at is cash and cash on a future projection. The other team, they look at it different. They look at it on an actuals basis, right? For them, they don't want to walk into a property that's only performing at a 6.49 cap rate and a 1.78 cash and cash. They have a different metrics. We do. We don't mind that as long as we're able to, you know, give a projection of these numbers. So this is going to be almost a 9% cap rate based on the pro forma at that price with a 14.37 return on investment. I didn't go over this, but ROI stands for return of investment. Gross rent multiplier. I'm going to get a little bit of a crowd participation in. Does anyone know what gross rent multiplier is? By a show of hands. Anybody? No? So gross rent,
How the purchase price divided by the gross rents? Or like the, what multiple it is? Or how many years it'll take to pay back? Well, no, that's cap rate, right?
yes. Yeah, there you go. It's basically how many years it's going to take to pay back what you initially invested in that property.
Got it.
Right? So this is about 11 years. It's going to take, if you keep the rent the same, no changes, you don't increase any value of the property, it's going to take you about 11 years to pay that initial capital back. All right, for the purchase price. So you take F5, right? F5 is 3.95 divided by L28, which is the gross rents, by 12 months. That's where we come out at that 10.99. And if we, on the pro forma basis, it's only going to take you 8.5 years. It's a big difference. You're saving yourself a couple of months. And then I don't want to go too deep into DSCR, but DSCR stands for debt service coverage ratio. So it's just the amount of debt that it takes to cover the amount of expenses in the property. Most lenders want you to perform at a 1.20. So that means that you, for every dollar that you spend on a property, it has to make back $1.20. Okay, for this one, it's $1.47. So you're above that 1.20 requirement. And so it changes based on what the lenders consider. That gets a little bit more technical, but we don't need to dive too deep into that. So with this being said, now with the pro forma at 3.95 million, this can generate us $9,500 a month on cash flow. Now that's more attractive to an investor, right? Because when you're showing this to an investor, this is the type of numbers that they look for. How much are you making on a property, and what is your cash flow? With creative finance, that's very important for us, right? We need a cash flow on the property as long as, you know, the purchase price doesn't matter. It's what's being valued at for the property. If cash flow is what you value as an investor, this is what's important. But there's a few factors that tie into this, right? This is not just a one situation type of investment. Some people like to look at cap rates. Some people like to look at cash and cash. Some people like to have ROI. So it gets a little confusing and overwhelming, but that's what it takes to be into multifamily space. You have to learn the lingo. You have to get into live sessions like this and ask questions, because this is how I learned. This is how Carlos is learning. And this is how you guys learn, you know, getting into the multifamily space. A lot of people get very, very intimidated because there's just way too many numbers when it comes to the data, right? Most people are like, I don't understand a lot of this stuff, which I get. You know, it does look intimidating, but that's where you make your money. That's where you can earn generational wealth, and that's where we're all trying to get to. But we don't get there by ourselves. We have to lean on somebody that's more experienced, that knows how to analyze deals, that knows how to negotiate. And that's why Carlos and I were doing this, is because he's my closer. I'm the underwriter, right? People send us deals and we run the numbers like this, and we tell the other side, like, hey, this is where we need to be at. So how much time we have left? Okay, we have about 16 minutes, 18 minutes. So one more tab I'm just going to show you guys is the seller finance. This seller is actually open to seller financing. Now, as you know, if you come from sub 2 or if you come from any type of creative financing background, you can pay more for a property than what they're asking for. as long as the terms work in your favor, or the price works in your favor and the seller's terms work in their favor. You can't have both, right? That's the rule of thumb. So remember this, terms, you can tell this to a seller if this is one of the liners that we usually use is, I get my price, you get your terms. Or I get my terms, you get your price, but you can't have both. Remember that, okay? That's how it works.
There was an
Bank is gonna-
example, there was an example yesterday when we were doing a live call and the seller was open to terms and he named his price and he named his terms. I didn't mind giving him his price, but I didn't want to give him his term. Wanted 8%, then went down to 6%. And then I just told him, I don't even want to pay interest. Let me just pay you more money up front. Let me finance the interest and let me just refinance it on the purchase price. And so we're now at 0%, but I'm paying him $10,000 more and then having him finance it. And so the whole thing was I told him, look, I don't mind giving you your number, but I can't cash flow. I just need the cash flow. And that's one thing that you guys want to use when somebody's giving you interest. Look at this guy gave me 8%. I never even declined anything up. It's on one of our videos. And I just told him that, look, that's kind of steep. I don't mind giving you your number, but how am I supposed to cash flow? Can you work with me if I'm still going to be able to give you the number you want? Then he said, yeah, I can give you 6%. And then I told him, I stayed quiet. And then I responded like this. I said, well, you know, that's just going to hurt my payment. And remember, for the incentive for me to pay you more, you just have to let me cash flow. Otherwise, I can't do this. So let's just do this. Would you be willing? We took out the interest and I paid you more on the purchase price, meaning that you're going to finance me the interest rate. And he went with it. And so, yeah, that's an awesome close because I go from 8% to 6% to 0%. What am I going to do? I'm going to wrap it and I'm going to charge 8%. So I'm going to win on that part. But the beautiful thing is if you guys can close, learn how to negotiate, guys can come in there and get better terms. So get your terms, because a lot of times it's a numbers game. Once somebody's open to terms, same thing. It's a numbers game. They might not give you the terms that make sense and still be a dead deal.
Yep, exactly. So I learned a lot from Carlos over the last few weeks. We've been partnering up on trying to do, giving back value to the community. But that's just one of the tips and tricks that we actually learned from Pace. You know, if you want to get zero seller finance, 0% interest, tack on that interest on the back end of the purchase price, right? Because if you can finance that interest over time, it's a win-win for both. You never want to carry, you want to try to get to zero interest rate. You don't want to carry any interest because it's tacked on based on the balance of your loan. In the first 10 years of an actual loan, most of that price is interest going back to the lender. The lender is winning, absolutely. But over time, that's when you start paying down the principal slowly and putting money back into your pocket. But if you can consolidate it and negotiate so that you have 0% interest by adding a little bit more to the purchase price, that's how you get creative without having to, it's definitely a way to make it more attractive to the seller. Because what all they know is that, yeah, it's $200,000 or $50,000 more. I'll take that. Cool, give me 0% interest, right? They'll bite on that mostly all day unless you have a pretty savvy investor, and you're gonna have to use Carlos to help you close.
Yeah, you gotta learn how to work with savvy people. They're not that hard. You just gotta learn to just remember just what's your goal. You can hear them, don't argue with them, and hit your goal. You might make it, you might not, but that's your best chance. They do put some people down though. They make people who are getting a little bit better on the phones. Those guys are the guys that hurt your feelings because they're kind of like assholes. You just kind of don't bring emotion into it. Remember, your goal on the phone is to get what you need out, and so just move forward through all that.
And stick with your numbers. That's one of the biggest tips I can give you guys too when underwriting a deal. Stick with your numbers. If it doesn't work for you, there's so many other deals out there. And I learned that kind of the hard way, right? We kind of just got excited on a flip. We're like, yeah, let's just do it. And there was way other better deals, but we hopped on a deal. We even underwrote it, but we went against our numbers. And now obviously we're kind of, the conservativeness of our numbers didn't really pan out. So we're kind of close to our bottom line. But you have to stick with your numbers when you underwrite a deal. And if it's not a good, like, you can tell if it's a good deal. If they don't want to go with your numbers or your terms, move on to the next deal because it's not for you, right?
Yeah, or sometimes you can get a deal. Sorry, Stan. Sometimes you can get a deal that automatically cash flows with the interest, with the money down, like a deal I'm working with Sam in here. It's a duplex. He wants 150. He wants 20% down, so he wants 30 grand down, and he wants 3.5% interest rate. And there's like $600 net. Well, I mean, not true net because there's still war chest, but there's $600 spread in there that I'm already making off the bat. And my goal is to just sweeten it. So I could take it as is and still cash flow 600 minus war chest and expenses or whatever. But I'd rather get in there. And then, so if I'm putting $30,000 down and paying 3.5%, I'm still going to finance like 180 grand at the end of that whole, I have a 10-year term with him. So where I'm going to come and counter at 150, instead of putting 30 down, I'm going to come in and ask him for 10%. If I can give him 10% down. So at 150, I want to give 15 grand down. And instead of 3.5, because I ran the numbers, if I financed $135,000 after 15 grand down for 3.5% interest for 10 years, well, the first half of the term is really interest only. So I only really paid him, I think it was like $12,000 or $13,000 principal in the 10 years. And I paid him about 60 grand in interest. And that right there is, I would rather just come back and say, let me pay you 180 instead of 150, give you 15 grand down, and I'll finance the difference of 165 over 10 years, because I'm still going to be paying 215 if I finance 135 at 3.5. So I'd rather pay him 180 at 0% because I'm still going to save like 35 grand. And that's what my goal is. So he's already agreeing with what we have. He doesn't know I'm countering, but to make it sweeter, maybe he might be open to, hey, let me just pay you like $30,000 more with 0% interest though. So I could sweeten it up for me. That's all I wanted to put.
That's it. All right, so we got about 9 minutes left. So I'm just gonna finalize this. Do you guys have any questions or?
Yeah, I have a
we get
question
back
about the total rubs figure, that 2641. So that's a gain along a year time span.
So this is based on a monthly number on the rubs.
Okay, so that's 26 in the green monthly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because this is a bill back to the tenants, right? You're giving credit to yourself, but you're billing it back to your tenants. So that's considered a positive income.
Okay, got it.
All right, so this one is the seller financing tab. So this one, the seller was open to seller financing, right? But his term was he gets the price of 4.2 instead of that 4.4. 4.4, change that right there, right? And then we lowered the repairs to 50,000, and we just said, you know what, instead of putting 295, let's just put 50,000. Let's see what we come up with. So his term was 4.2 million, 20% down with a 3% interest rate and a 5-year balloon, right? Remember, our interest rate originally was a 6.5. Look how big of a difference this makes just from right here, these cash flow numbers, right? That's a big, big difference. Even here, cash and cash and on the actuals versus pro forma. So if he's seller financing it to us at 3%, we're automatically cash flowing almost $7,200 a month on this asset. This is why it's super attractive for now a buyer or a seller to say, hey, yeah, I'm down to do this deal with you, and even a buyer, an investor, off the bat, based on what the numbers is currently performing at, and we don't have to do anything to the place, we're automatically walking into a net positive cash flowing asset. Right, cash and cash is at 8.6, cap rates at 6.1, return on investment is 10.28. But if we build it up, keep our numbers with future projection, right? Even just putting $50,000, maybe it's still, it can still perform that. We don't know. This is just future projection. Our cash and cash just went up to 18% because he's seller financing us and saving us another 3.5% on that. But we went from a 3.95 up to a 4.2 purchase price, because that's what he wants, right?
So he was asking 4.4 cash with 6.5 and just decided, hey, if I give you terms, I'll lower both the price and the interest.
According to the student, that's what he was open to
That's
terms
crazy.
on.
That's crazy. I
Mhm.
mean, he just decided. Usually it's the other way around. My bad.
Yeah.
Usually they're gonna ask you for more on terms, but man, that's cool.
Because originally I think he was able to negotiate down to a 3.8 instead of a 4.4. Right, that's if, yeah. So if he's gonna seller finance the whole entire amount, he said he wants 4.2. But now you're walking into a really positive cash flowing property,
Nice.
right? So I think that's it. I mean, this is all I got. Anything else that you guys have any questions on that I can share with you guys? Oh, here, I'll teach you guys one more thing if you guys want
Yeah, we do want it.
it. Who wants more value? All right, so here's a way to calculate an offer price, right? This is very important. Net operating income, that's an easy thing to get from the P&L statements or the trailing 12. And if you divide that by a market cap, you can get the offer price or value of what the property is, right? So you'll see a lot of people, a lot of investors say, I want to buy it at a 5 cap, right? So if we take the NOI of the annualized NOI of 256, right? And they want to buy it at a 5 cap after stabilizing the property. So we take NOI divided by market cap, 5%. This property would be evaluated at $5.1 million. Okay. That's what the value of the property would be worth. But let's say they want to buy it at a 6 cap, or that's what the market is giving. So let's put 350, 256, 371, 38. You see how the purchase price just went lower, the value at a 6 cap? Now it's worth 4.272 million. So you can work backwards on this, right? And now that's one way to evaluate a property. Here's another way, right? If you take the NOI and divide it by the asking price, that will equal your cap rate. So let's work backwards. All right, take your NOI and divide it by the asking price, 5.21. Now you get a cap rate of 5%. Same with that. And then the last one would be how you get the value of the net operating income. Let me look at my notes because my brain's a little mush right now.
So is this guy bleeding out right now?
I believe he is, based on the as is value of what I've been given. We can call the agent if you want.
Dude, yeah, I'm down.
Okay, so this one is purchase price times cap rate equals the net operating income, right? So if you take the purchase price of 5.1, you times it by the cap rate of 5. Oh, right here. 256, the match, right? That's what your NOI is, your net operating income. There's other back of the napkin ways to evaluate a property. Sometimes you can do some markets, you can times it by 10. Other markets, more of appealing market, the more class B, class A, they times it by a multiplier of 20. So what does that mean? You can get a value of a property by just taking the NOI. If you times it by 10, it would technically be about a 2.5, but most markets right now are kind of trading at about a 20 multiplier. See, 5.21, right? So you're getting about twice that. So that's how you get, like, that's an easy back of the napkin way to evaluate a property. You just take the NOI, you times it by 10 or 20. And that's where they're kind of trading your value at for your property. So cool little hacks that I've learned. But I hope that helps you guys. And that's it for me.
you guys share a template of this, or is this kind of exclusive to you guys?
This is exclusive to us. You're talking about the spreadsheet?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
in the form of like a template. Cause okay, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, there's the baseline for this particular sheet I bought from Investor Ace.
Okay.
He has this, but all the extra bells and whistles I've already added on as myself. But that's how you evaluate property on multifamily, how to underwrite it. You guys got some value from that?
Dude, you're the best. I always get value, man. What about everybody else? Let's hear some people give some value out there. I know everybody likes to tune in, listen in, but ask your questions. If you want to give some thanks, whatever it is, let's hear some voices. Let's get interactive in here.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on here and dropping bombs, Stan.
Welcome, buddy.
Yeah, I learn something every time. I appreciate it, Stan.
Welcome, Josh.
I got a couple pages of notes today.
Yeah, I learned something new today with how to do the value adds based on what I think that's something I kind of talked about at the beginning of the class, where on this part about the difference on the rental rates, adding value. And then I learned that today, So there's always something when you come in here that you can learn from. Sometimes I don't always talk about the same thing, but it's like the most common lingos or how to evaluate certain parts of a deal. That's pretty much how I learn every day, and just by teaching you guys. And thanks guys for being here. I know you guys could have been anywhere else, but the hour and a half that you guys spent on a Friday, you guys are here with Carlos and I, and all the guys that always come in, Sam, Josh, shout out to you both, and you guys always support us. Ben, see some new names in here. But if
you guys know when you guys do underwriting and stuff, when you shift, you see how you kind of get confused. You guys, like, we're trying to understand single family homes and everything that go with them, duplexes, land, manufactured home. Then you get over here and it's like, oh man, different terminology. It's a lot different. It's kind of like you want to come every Friday, or if you don't come every Friday, you want to kind of try to like YouTube terminology on commercial, multifamily. Try to get in there and start underwriting with other people, because we're gonna need to put some time in. Once a week is okay if you kind of understand it. If not, you're gonna want to read a little bit more, right? I have a couple books I just bought on commercial real estate. So each time I come in, I can have Stan's back by understanding, reading it, studying. And the stronger and more confident I get, the easier it's gonna be for when I get on the phone and negotiate. I'm not the best at underwriting, but you put me on the phone for single family homes, and you see what I've been able to do without underwriting. If I can underwrite, I'll be 10 times better, because I can see things that I can't see. You put me in multifamily, I'm not that strong in negotiating because I don't know how to underwrite at all or look at it, since I'm so new like most of you guys. But through time, after me reading a couple books and keep coming every Friday and we're looking at deals, I'm going to perform here soon with Stan on a deal. We'll all do it live, organically. I'm not further than you guys, just we want it. Might want it more than you guys, but we're going to organically get some deals done. Eventually, we could even try to syndicate a deal together. If somebody wants to bring a deal, I negotiate it, Stan underwrites it. Somebody wants to, 2-3 people want to bring money to the table for it, and we can start doing deals like how Sub 2 does, how they're, hey, let's do a group deal, right? I know that in the Telegram and Powerhouse, Stanley was talking about, let's do a deal together for the powerhouse. Let's put a whole bunch of people and let's get people to that next level quicker. I mean, you guys are already in proximity with people already moving forward, getting deals. Ben got his first deal. Josh is working his first deal that they're going to buy. Josh isn't in creative financing, but he comes here, starts learning from Stan and other people, and he's getting close to performing on a creative finance deal that he didn't need to jump into sub 2. But we're part of that group and we learned it. To come more, put yourself in proximity of people that are doing better, that are moving forward. You guys could start performing quicker. And one thing, if you guys want to learn to buy, start putting it out there that you're a buyer and watch shit shift. Watch everything shift. If you start putting, I'm a buyer, guarantee you, I told Ben to do it. Ben's like, hey, I want to start performing. Go and tell people you're a buyer. 24 hours later, he bought a property. That's just literally what happened.
Yeah.
Josh too, went out there, he said, I'm a buyer. 24 hours later, he had like 6 deals that came to him for him to analyze. You guys don't put it out there that I want to buy, no one's gonna know what to sell you.
I'm a testament to that. It's just basically manifestation, right? Even though you don't have the ability to buy, but if you put it out in the world and you see people on social media, they have that attraction, you're putting out a frequency, they will come to you. I haven't bought a property on a creative side yet, but I did take the same lingo. I literally just copied and pasted everything that Carlos put on his, and I put it on my thread of social media people that follow me, and I started getting some leads to potentially close on. But if you don't put it out there, no one's gonna know, right? In real estate, you kind of almost have to brag that you're doing something for people to really see you, that you're taking action. Even though it might annoy some people, who cares? Put it out there. Even though you're not a buyer right now, you will be, right? You're an investor. You're here because you want to learn, you want to become the investor. You have to put it out in the world that you're a buyer. Easy. If I could leave you guys with one thing, I'm going back on my second round of this book, and I think it's one of the best commercial. If you really want to understand commercial, it's not super complicated, but it's called, you can buy it on Audible. I'll put it right here. The Confessions of a Real Estate Entrepreneur, What It Takes to Win at High Stakes Commercial Real Estate, by James Randall. I would get this book, get it on Audible, because who likes reading nowadays? That's your Carlos. But I think that's like one of the best books I could recommend on like the beginners of being in commercial real estate. Doesn't matter if you want to do multifamily, if you want to get into shopping centers, if you want to get into land, get that book. It's all about knowledge and just leaning on the right people. Right? I didn't learn this overnight. I've been licensed for a year, but I decided to go commercial because that's what that's my passion. And I met everybody through Carlos and the community of Sub 2, and I haven't done a deal yet with Carlos, but I will. I haven't done a deal with Josh yet and Sam, but I will. And Ben, so, lean on the right people. My number's right here. Take my number, feel free to text me, introduce yourself. If you guys ever come to Vegas, this is where I live. But yeah, appreciate everyone coming in today.
You're awesome, bro. So awesome. I appreciate you, man. Much love.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's called Confessions of a Real Estate Entrepreneur. Right here.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna check it out. Good looking. Yes, hello there. Appreciate you. Confessions of a Real Estate.
Confessions of a Real Estate Entrepreneur. You're welcome.
Let's get it. Let's we'll tune back in on Monday. We'll do some role play Monday, Tuesday. We'll get some seller calls. Just get in there, participate. We'll get some deals done with everybody here. It's not hard. I'm buying a deal from KC. I'm buying a deal from Sam. I bought one with Ben. I'm buying one from Josh. I'm gonna buy one with Josh. I'm gonna work one with Lauren. I'm working multifamily with Stan. So these are all in the works. I have like 20 more in the pipeline. If you get out there, same thing, guys. We started doing this powerhouse like 3 months ago. I didn't have much deals done. I just constantly, repetitively did the action of copying and posting every single month. Every day I was posting it. I was behind the scenes, still working very hard, educating myself, reading, trying to get better acquisitions. And within the last 3 months, organically, I started growing in front of everybody. And the same thing is going to happen for you guys. Just don't take your foot off the pedal. You guys can do this. 60, 90 days, even 120 days, or fuck it, like 180 days, you should be all in. You guys should really feel what it feels like to be a high performer for once. If you guys never really stayed consistent or stayed true to yourself, most people actually don't know how to stay true to themselves. And what I mean is, most people are going to say, I want to do this, I want to stop drinking, or I want to study, but they don't stay true to themselves. Behind the scenes, after they hang up with somebody, they're just back to drinking, chilling, not studying. It's not been like that for me. That's probably why shit started to shift with me last month. Bought 4 homes, got 1 this month already, sent out another one while we were talking. I have 3 more I have to lock up, and then I have the future ones we just talked about. You guys can do the same shit. Put yourself out there repetitively, brand yourself, and just come back in here. Let's study and work, and let's all close deals and let's eat.
Hell yeah. So I'll see you guys next Friday, 3 p.m. Feel free to reach out to us anytime.
Much love, guys. You guys have a good
All right,
evening.
guys.
Enjoy your weekend.
Enjoy your weekend. Thanks, guys.